Welcome back, fans of the OneCast. If you want to know what it takes to become a local professional angler with over 40 years of experience, you're not going to want to miss this episode. We're joined by our great friend, Hal Abshire.
That's a good one. That's a good one. Oh, God, it's a toad, son. It's a toad, dude.
Let's go. I wake up to a little bit of drool on my pillow, feel like it's going to be a bad day.
Welcome back, fans of the OneCast. Happy New Year. It is officially 2024. And if you didn't check our first episode out, you're going to want to rewind and check that out because our awesome guest that we have today is also a great friend of his. So, guys, how are we doing today?
Well, this is actually our first episode of 2024.
Whatever.
It aired today. But we're recording this on the 1 year anniversary when we released our first episode. So that's kind of cool. So exactly 1 year ago today, January 4th, the first episode came out. So yeah, it's crazy. And then our 53rd episode came out.
I tell you what, it's nice we've come a long ways because I remember last year it was cold in the studio.
That's right.
We got some heat now, so it's all good.
Yeah, we got a little space heater that's pumping, but that was provided by our great friends at OneCast Fishing. And speaking of OneCast Fishing, head on over to OneCastFishing.com. Use the code TheOneCast. Ben has all the snagless jigs, so if you want to join the snagless revolution, get your hands on those snagless jigs, those weedless net heads, the long neck hooks which are fire, and then the soft plastics and apparel. Check the apparel line out at OneCast Fishing. You can see the podcast apparel there. If you guys support that, it's going to support the show, and it's going to continue bringing you awesome guests like we have lined up today. In addition to that, if you guys are trying to discover your perfect piece of paradise, you want to get a hold of Eric Schwinn with Mossy Oak Properties. He works in the Sandhills area, so if you're dreaming of owning your own slice of nature's beauty, look no further than Eric Schwinn with Mossy Oak Properties, your premier land agent for finding that perfect land to call your own in the Fort Bragg, now Fort Liberty area and surrounding areas. Whether you're seeking a tranquil gateway, a prime hunting spot, or a scene retreat for your family, Eric has the ideal piece of land waiting for you. With a wide range of properties featuring stunning natural landscapes, rolling hills, pristine waterways, and abundance of wildlife, Eric's committed to helping you find the perfect place to build your dreams. Whether you're an avid outdoors enthusiast, a nature lover, or simply seeking a peaceful escape, he will find the land to match your vision. In fact, he's out there using the side-by-side right now to help somebody out. So don't miss out on the opportunity to own your very own piece of paradise. Contact Eric Schwinn at Mossy Oak Properties of the Sandhills today to make your dream of owning land a reality. Contact him at 936-494-9686, or you can email him at eschwind, that's ESCHWIND at mossyoakproperties.com. Again, ESCHWIND at mossyoakproperties.com. Woo!
And I'll put that all in the description below moving forward. We're super excited to have Eric. This is technically his second episode.
That's right.
As one of our partners. So looking forward to getting out with him, maybe shooting some video on some properties that he's going to be showcasing.
And Trey, great job with that ad read. You did it live.
Yeah,
did it live, not pre-recorded.
That's how
rolled right through it.
That's how Trey rolls.
That's the beauty of this. I mean, we've, this episode, yes, it's our second episode of the new year, but we've gained a lot of great partners and met so many great people along the way. It's been an opportunity to network and talk to regional professionals, vendors, national professionals, awesome people along the way. And that's what we're here to do today, is bring our great friend Hal Abshire, who has fished tournaments for over 40 years. In fact, his very first tournament was before any of us were born, and that does not date him.
No. Real quick, though, before we bring Hal on, if you're listening to this, tomorrow kicks off Raleigh Expo. We'll be there throughout the weekend, either at the OneCast Fishing booth with our partners over at Carolina Waters. I'll be over at Cashin for some time Saturday and probably half a day Sunday. Probably spend some time with Gamma if they're there this year. Dale hasn't gotten back to me. I know he's been super busy, but make sure if you're in the Raleigh area, North Carolina, if you're within driving distance, come on out to the Raleigh Expo Center. Check that out. Hal will be there with a bunch of companies. You can pick his brain and talk to him about the goings on. The following weekend will be Ben will be at Richmond. I'll be there Saturday and Sunday as well, giving him a hand up there. And then is it the weekend after that in Knoxville?
The weekend after that.
Ben will be lone gunning that one. So he's going to be on the road for the month of end of January, beginning of February. If you're in any of those areas, check out those shows, swing by, say hi to Ben. He'll have some hats and shirts for purchase there. And, of course, his whole line of jigs and everything. And I'm sure some show specials. So just wanted to make sure we put that out there before we brought Hal on, because we don't want to interrupt this conversation we're going to have. There's going to be a ton of great information.
Let's keep Hal in suspense before we bring him on real quick. Is there anything new in the bass fishing world right now? Pete, you sent us something earlier that I don't know if it's worth talking about, but
yeah, we can
pretty
bring it
interesting.
up real quick. Actually, two things. So the MPFL roster came out. We'll talk through that here probably in an episode. We'll dedicate to that like we do every year. But some big names on that with Kyle Welcher coming over, David Fritz, and some other legends names coming over there. It's going to be an interesting season.
Anglers,
127 anglers. So we'll talk more on that. But North Carolina, if y'all listened to our episode with Corey Oakley with NCWRC, I'm not going to try to tell you his title because I'll butcher it. It's long, but he's basically the lead inland fisheries biologist. We talked about the slot limit on Sharon Harris, and there hadn't really been the scientific evidence to back up that it was hurting. They didn't think that it was necessary, but now the data is showing a decline in fish health overall, and they're attributing that to the slot limit and a lack of keep, a lack of fish kill, a lack of harvest, however you want to put it. So they're proposing for 2024, 2025.
I'm trying to drum roll here for you guys.
The removal of the slot limit on Harris. So they're going to go to, as it is on this side of the state, 2 under 14, the rest over 14. So we're looking forward to hopefully that going through. They've tried a few times in the past. It's always been pushed back on. But as we know with Corey, he did not feel that that was going to happen this go round. So looking forward
15 years of data to now bring this to the table. But better late than never. The only concern, and I would consider Harris my home lake, the only concern I would have is now if this does get passed, there's going to be an extreme amount of pressure on that body of water.
Every tournament's going
to go there. But we talked about stunting the growth of bass and stuff like that. And so hopefully this alleviates some of that pressure and allows some of those largemouth to grow even bigger than what they were before. So we'll see. I don't know. You just got to trial and error that thing and see if it works. You know what I mean?
There'll be a lot of tournament pressure out there, but it goes from being a terrible tournament lake to everyone goes out and catches 15, 17 pounds.
Yep.
So it should be.
I'm sure Hal can speak to the history of Harris. He's probably fished her a few times.
We've been keeping him, in suspense the whole time and jumping on. But Hal Abshire, regional, local pro, professional angler. And he just pulled something pretty cool out of his pocket, which looks like a map. Is that a map of Sharon Harris?
That's the original map of 19 whatever when it first opened up. That's what we had to live by to find out what Sharon Harris was all about. Wow. So I thought I would bring you youngins a map of Sharon Harris that we actually had to go up to their headquarters and get that, and that was gold back then.
Really?
No one had a map of Sharon Harris. None of us knew what it was about. I have fished it since day one it's opened up. And I would guarantee my co-angler that we would have 20 keepers in the boat by 9 o'clock. Mm-hmm. And back then it was 10 fish limit. So we had to have 10 fish limit. And so by 9 o'clock, me and my co-anglers would have 20 fish.
I'll tell you what, Hal, this is the original copy.
That's it.
So can I make a copy of that? Because I want to frame that and put that here in the studio.
That is the original.
That's awesome.
I talked to Jeff about this. I said, I'm going to bring them a little surprise tonight. And I was thinking about this the whole time when you said you want me on. And I said, I want to bring something that y'all have never seen before.
Yeah.
And you can see how old that paper is.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah.
And that I have a file, and I could tell everybody to do this too. I keep a file on every lake and river that I fish. And I've got it in Halmart, my garage, my shop. And so every lake and river I go to, I open that up and I go back into everything I have in there for history, all the way from the 80s, 90s to now. And that has stayed in my files from then. And you'll see I marked a couple places. So you don't have
Yeah,
to
that's what I'm
look
looking
at.
I
I
was
was
looking
taking a
real
mental
close.
picture of that bad boy, you know?
And I'm like-
it's even saying what baits to work in those areas. We're going to go back.
But you got to think that was back in the 80s right there.
Wow.
And I literally had to go to their headquarters to get that. And we all lined up to go get them. And that was Sharon Harris in his prime time.
Did they ever come out with a contour map?
I don't think I've
A
ever
paper
The
contour map?
old paper.
I've never seen them.
I remember
I've had some.
having to use them like 20 years ago because I didn't have sonar.
I have
to
one
tie
for
the
Jordan
maps,
that I
but-
use to this day because
Yeah.
you can sometimes find stuff you just don't see on the graphs.
Well, I've got some from back then on Jordan too, because I fished Jordan and Harris back when they first opened up, both of them like that, and Harris was just tremendous back then. Just,
They opened pretty close to one another, correct?
They did same year, everything. So
Okay.
that right there is. I mean, that was my original paper.
Well, the next time you see that paper not in your filing cabinet, it's going to be right on its
Right, we're going to frame it.
and that lake has a special place in my heart for sure. But you know, a lot of these lakes, you have so much experience, and like we talked about, you've been fishing tournaments since 1980. Is that
Fished
correct?
my very first one on Lake Gaston, 1980, and I was in the military, so before you knew it, I had to go off to Iceland to go chase Russians out there, and so we come back. When I came back from there, all I thought about was I got all these Bassmaster magazines coming to me while I'm in Iceland. I'm like, oh man, I can't wait to go back and fish, and so when I come back, I was like, I got to do something. So I joined a club, and they didn't want to join. They didn't want nobody else to do anything else. Didn't want to bring people in. I said, forget this. I'm going to start a club, and I started a club, and next thing you know, it became one of the biggest clubs around, and Carolina Bassers, and 1983. And I think I was telling Pete, I said, we had as many as 75, 77 members at one time. And then we got the biggest youth group there was. And so it just become a great club. And it was so, if you couldn't win there, you shouldn't have progressed anymore. I mean, it was that tough. So, and we fished all over. And so we pulled up, they thought it was a mini MLF come up. So, it was crazy. It was really good.
And it's still going today. I fished that club, and there's still some sticks in that bad boy. They'll take your lunch money in a hurry on these local lakes.
Well, that's kind of the cool. Well, we got a giant sticker, and the fans can't see that, but we got a giant sticker over here. But fishing since the 1980s. But let's rewind before that. So you were in the military. What got you? Because you're from here, correct?
Right.
So here is in North Carolina. I guess this would be considered Central North Carolina. Lee County is.
Harnett County.
From Harnett County. So, what drove you into this passion?
I'd been fishing ever since I was in diapers, man. I mean, it was just my family. Everything was outdoors, hunting and fishing. And, I just, all my life, that's all I'd ever done. And so I just had a passion for it. And picking up a Bassmaster magazine, that's what you read. And then in the middle of the year, you'd wait for the catalog to come out from Bass Pro Shops. And it was like, oh my God, we read and read and read and read, everything was just a big deal. You didn't have the internet. And that's all you had was stuff like that. And so I built up on that, and I'd go fish farm ponds. And then when I started this club, it's like, man, this is harder. Farm ponds, I could walk around and catch the same fish over and over, but fishing these, so you really had to learn. And, I had flashers on my boat. And now everybody's like got all this electronics and everything, and I learned it with flashers.
Yeah.
And it was a great learning curve, because we would keep tape in a boat and mark a tree with the surveyor tape that there was a stump or there was a log or there's rocks down there, or you would put it on this side, knowing that it was on this other side, because somebody seen your tape and fishing that area right there, so you'd mark the other side. Fake them out, it's just opposite of yellow tape. Yep. So when you see yellow tape up in the trees, we knew that somebody was marking something. So we used to do all kinds of stuff like that. I'd seen guys take medicine bottles and put string in it and let it be floating. There'd be a log down there or something like that. Just something.
Did you ever? Who told us this? I forget the episode we were on. They were doing it up north, but it was an old school. They were doing it with crappie, but I guess bass. They would catch their fish. Then they would attach a bobber to it. and then watch where that bob, let it loose and watch where that bobber went. Be like, oh, there's more over there.
I've seen guys do it with balloons.
Oh, really?
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah.
I can't remember who told us that, but yeah, that's how they used to find schools of crappie was tying a balloon or a bobber or something to them, let them go back to the brush pile.
So you started the club. I mean, that really is, in my opinion, that's really the grassroots
Sure.
of the competitive angling side of it. Angling in general, like we all know, less than 1% of the angling population fishes competitively, but from the competitive side, that is the grassroots. What kind of challenges did that pose for you? But also, what kind of doors did that open for you that kind of springboarded you into where you are today?
Well, from starting the club and then fishing the club, you learn to fish against different people, not just your buddies that you've been pond fishing with or river fishing with. And then people brought in different techniques that all of a sudden, oh man, I've never tried that before. Let me try that. And you learn from different people. Ones that would talk are the ones that just left a rod out too many times that you got stuff. But the biggest door that opened for me was that I won a big award for Federation. I made Bassmaster of the Year for North Carolina, and that was huge. That was gigantic. And I remember when the pro's wife told me, she says, you're only as good as your last win, and this is a gigantic win for you. Go for it. Next thing I know, doors just opened up for me from industry. And this was when industry was really good, going after people and everything. And when I won Bassmaster of the Year for North Carolina, that was a gigantic opening for me. So through the club, I won a bunch of tournaments. I learned how to fish tournaments. And then I got this great award. And so that kind of got me more into the industry.
Okay.
So that helped me out there. And, I'd already been working industry a little bit, but then that really got me into the deal there.
Yeah. Then I want to ask, like, in Carolina Bassers, you started that in 82?
83.
83. And how long did you stay in that club for?
A good 20 years, maybe, and fishing other stuff. I started fishing the BFLs, and I'm like, I should have stopped maybe 10 years ago. I wanted to go pro. When I got out of service, I was going to go. And never forget, my wife says, okay, we'll sell everything and we'll get out and follow you. Then people wasn't homeschooling their kids and doing this. Now pros are doing this, taking their families. And I'm like, man, I can't do this to them. Something messes up. I got my daughter and my wife. They've said, yeah, we're going to follow you. And I said, you know what? I'll just fish local and I'll just work my way up. So then I start fishing some bigger tournaments and bigger trails. And that's where I can still keep my home and not lose it either,
Yeah, I mean, like, we all talk about professional angling, and I throw that in air quotes, but like, yeah, I mean, if you qualified for the elites or qualified for the Bass Pro Tour, in certain people's opinions, they believe that is the only professional competitive bass fishing. And then there's others that don't believe that. They say if you can make a living off doing that and providing for your family, well, that's pretty much your profession. And granted, you retired from the military, but a lot of our viewers ask the questions a lot of times, like, how can I get in the industry? And I think what that question really translates to is, how can I be a professional angler? But in your opinion, and that's kind of what we're here to talk about today, is there's a lot more than just the national level touring angler from the competitive side. You've clearly done a fantastic job. Can you kind of explain like how that came to be and some of your greatest lessons learned along the journey?
Well, I think we had talked earlier before we got on camera. The very, very first sponsor I got was off of a handshake, and I saw their hat, and I said, man, I love that hat. Well, I was up in Virginia at a classic, and then I said, man, that spinnerbait really looks cool. So I told the guy, I said, I really like to work your bait. I'm gonna fish a big tournament coming up. And I said, I'd like to maybe get up with you people. And he said, well, I'll tell you what, if you do good in the tournament coming up, and if you win, we'll strike up a deal. And like I was telling you, I said, my very first contract come off of a handshake because he told me flat out, and I told him, I said, well, I don't know where you're from, but North Carolina, men's word is as good as anything else, you know. And that's when he buffed up to me. I said, well, I'm from Oklahoma. And then, by God, I'm going to shake your hand on it. And we shook the hand. I won the top 6 tournament, big regional tournament on Roanoke River. Got a big newspaper write-up, and I sent it to them. They sent me a gigantic box of spinner baits, buzz baits, everything they had. And I stayed with them for like 10 years maybe. I mean, it's just fantastic. But what I would tell people is everybody always calls me up and asks me. You know, I was with the big bait company out of Japan for years, and no one could ever get with them. I was the only one in North Carolina with them. And I would always tell somebody, you know, everybody wants to go the easy way. Everybody wants a handout. They just don't work for it. Is go to these shows, meet the reps, just like you, Ben. You know, you go to the shows, you have a booth, and you'll see people come up and ask you. But go and help the rep. Meet Ben. You know, say, can I help you? Let me help you tear down. Let me help you. I'll come back Sunday. That's how you learn the company. Not only just to do that, but learn the company ahead of time. You know, I would study a company. I've even as much as went to I want to see what they did in stock. If it was a public company, I would see what kind of money they were making. I studied them. I mean, I did homework on them. You know, I had a big company that I was going to look at. I studied way back on it, what products they made, what companies they worked with. Know that stuff before you ever get up to someone like Ben, you know, come up to a booth and say, hey, I know that you're making this also, you know. So I would go and work a lot of the shows. And as I worked shows for one company, I'd take a break. Well, I'd walk around the show a little bit. And I'm like, hey, and they see you in a suit and everything, you know, you got your tournament shirt on, tournament hat, you're looking sharp. Hey, come here a minute. You know, I'd like for you to do this. Okay, let's talk. But that's how you get going. Once you get into all these shows that's coming up, go around and talk to somebody. I had a group of kids come around one time. They come up to a big show that I was in. I was with one of my sponsors, sunglass company out of Florida, Keys. And they come up and they're going, spitting in a bottle. Well, we want you to sponsor us, you know. I'm like, and the woman was freaking out. She's from Florida Keys. I'd never seen anybody spit before, you know. Like that. And I'm like, oh God, I got to talk to these guys, you know. So and I grabbed them off to the side, and I was young. I said, man, y'all can't do that. I said, you're freaking her around. So it's the way you approach people too, you know. Just think about when you go up to somebody, it's almost like a job interview. You know?
Yeah. So, those are great points there. Because we've had this conversation before, like with Trent Palmer on, because, you know, in Sonar Pros, and obviously we've had it amongst ourselves. But number one is, you know, for anyone out there who wants to get sponsored or work with companies, you got to know the company, right? Ideally, if you're asking for stuff, you've used their products before.
There you go.
Right? That's number one thing. Or you better have like 1 million social media followers, right? But you need to use their products. You got to meet them. As much as this industry, I mean, there's 1 million companies out there, but it's still very small. When you go around all these shows, you see the same people. Even in ICAST and the Bassmaster Classic, like we're all seeing the same people when we're there. Obviously, there's events, there's more, you know, companies and folks there, but it's still very, very small. So you got to know the folks, you got to use their products. And then like when we had Trent on, like if you're really serious about working with a company, like go to them and explain how you're going to make it worth their while in a sense. Provide that value add. And, you know, unfortunately I don't, you know, that's just an education piece. A lot of people don't think about that, especially, you know.
Yeah. And just to build on that, like Hal said, you're only as good as your last victory. And we're going to talk about that's not necessarily the mentality anymore. Right. Now, social media plays such a huge role. Who you can get, you know, the information out to, how you present that information. But I can tell you right now, you know, I'm blessed. I know a lot of people with a lot of different companies and in a lot of high positions and different positions. And I see it at every show that I go to. The quickest way to make sure you never work with that company is to walk up to them and start bashing the guy in the booth next to him and his product. It doesn't matter if you're complaining about their hooks, what you're complaining about, they put on the hard baits, whatever it is. 99.99% of those guys are going to sit there, nod and smile, and then they're going to put you on a blacklist somewhere. Nobody wants to hear that. You know, the industry is small. Everybody knows everybody, especially with the bigger companies. Folks move from company to company. They bounce around. They take different opportunities. And we talked about it off camera. We'll have Hal talk about it again. You don't know who is going to run that company next week, next month, next year, 10 years.
I mean, we're about to enter silly season, as everyone calls it, and all the pros are switching from Bullet to Ranger. I mean, and they're going to explain that their new boat or new rod company they're working with is now the best. Where there's last year it was the previous company. That's just the way it works in the business. That's, you know, hopefully none of us hold it against them because they're just trying to make $1 or $2, right?
You got to make
exactly.
They got to pay their way. And I've already seen the bashing of Hank Cherry because he left Pure Fishing and all them and went with Level and a few other companies.
What my point is with those guys is you very rarely do you hear them bashing the company that they're leaving.
Right.
I'm leaving this company because of these bad reasons. That's why I'm going here. It's usually because, as we all just talked about, they may be going back there in 2 or 3 years because of, no one knows how the landscape's going to, shake out here. So it's always, you don't want to burn bridges. That's what I'm trying to go for.
So
you don't want to walk over a bridge and then burn it so you can't go back across.
Well, we talked about that off camera, Hal. Where do you think, besides going to the shows, and I'm kind of tying into like fishing local tournaments because you do so many of them. In fact, you have over 170 just total top 5 finishes that I'm looking at right here on your fishing resume. And I want to get to resumes too later. But where are the bridges built? We always talk about burning the bridges, but besides the shows, do you believe that you start building those bridges at those local tournament levels?
Definitely. You do that, and then, build from there, say club level, go like what the BFLs used to be. We'd go BFLs, we'd go to the next one. Then if you're going to move on up there like that, or go opens, go somewhere and build yourself up. But you're learning every step as you go. And you're not only learning, but what's happening here is people are getting to know who you are.
Right.
So they're seeing you, and they're seeing you at the shows. They're seeing you at the tournaments. I had a pro come up to me at ICAST, and I went up and introduced myself. He says, "Dude, I know who you are." Mm-hmm. That was the biggest compliment I'd had. He says, "I learned all about you." He said, "If I come down there and fished in your area, I knew that you had to be one of the guys I had to beat." Mm-hmm. He said, "I read about you, I don't know how many times, and I had never met him. But I met him one time, and I didn't think he, He says, "Dude, I know exactly who you are because I studied you." And then that got me going. I'm like, he's on my level because I studied people too.
Right.
So that's why I keep a file on every lake, every river I go. But I also keep magazine articles on the lakes and rivers. And I break it down. If it says, hey, this was September, then I got a September time frame. If I'm going to fish a lake, river in that September, I'll go back to that magazine article. Mm-hmm. It might have been 20 years ago, but it's still something in there is going to, hey, yeah, there's something there. So I go from club on up, keep working. People are going to see who you are. It used to be newspapers used to really write about you. Now it's social media writing about you. Yep. Back when I was really doing it, you really made friends with all the newspaper people you could. And so I was really on a first-name basis with all the editors, all the outdoors, the sports guys, the magazine guys, because that was my social media outlet.
Right.
Now it's like, I got a promotion guy now. He's helping me. I can't keep up with it. And so I got my promotion friend here, Jeff Makar, he's helping me by keeping me straight for social media. So we're working on all my social media stuff now because it's not the newspapers, it's not the magazine articles as much. And you've got to be up in social media. Now, they don't care that I've got 170 top 5s.
Right. Now
they care is how many people do I have following me?
Yeah.
I just signed a big contract last year. First sentence on this big company was, how many followers do you have? Then they want to know what I've done. And, it's been something else, So if you start losing people, you better find a way to gain them. And we were talking about that. I said, man, I got to get started back on my social media. I've been out for a little bit here, about a month or so. So this is my off season. So I'm kind of recovering from some stuff. And so I'm like, got to get back on social media because it's killing me.
Yeah.
And so
it's not your off season. You're sitting right here right now.
This is starting it. Yeah.
And for folks, you can't see him, but Jeff is off to the side and he's actually recording us right now. Yeah. I'm trying not to look at him. But like social media isn't everything, right? You said like the editors wrote, it's a lot of things, but like there are still a lot of businesses that respect that handshake and respect how you conduct yourself in a manner of being a steward of whatever profession you're in or whatever sport you're a part of. Now, yeah, the editors used to write about you, but now people write about themselves through their behavior.
Right.
And so because there's so much visibility everywhere, you can't escape it. What are your thoughts on the conduct of an angler when you were coming through versus the conduct of anglers now? Do you feel like it's changed to being a more professional, reserved, or do you think it's more loud and boisterous? And do you think it helps build or burn those bridges that we talked about?
I think it's changed. It's changed a whole lot from when I started out because it was more, we were all to ourselves. There was nobody filming us. We used to talk about this and, man, I wish we could get a movie camera. We used to literally say that because of the stuff, because my God, the fish we were catching back in the day, they weren't beat up like they are now,
Right.
And the fish have really gotten smart compared to when I was really starting fishing. They really have. They've been beat to death. So yeah, that, and you look now, somebody sees that red light on, all of a sudden, boy, that now it's like a 360. Yep. I got to act up. I got to do this, or I got to talk more. So when that light's on you, when that light is on you, it's like, okay, I got to change around. I got to put my cape on now, but I'm a different person. Yeah. And I've seen guys like that, and all of a sudden, as soon as that red light's off, it's like,
yep.
Hey, Hal, what's going on next? But before that, it's got to be loud and it's got to be proud type deal. And I still go on a handshake. When I go, guys were tickling me. In fact, Jeff and I was talking about, before, and another guy was talking about, he said, man, no one can follow you around at a show because everybody's coming up, shaking your hand, talking to you. You can go 5 feet and talk. But that's making people in the industry your friends, your family. Because when I go to a show, it's more like a reunion to me. Yeah. It really is. It's crazy. It's everybody talks about it. We're all friends. And you're right, Ben. If you talk bad about somebody or Pete, it's going to come back and burn you. Yep. So you've got to realize that. And just like you're talking about bashing, I had a guy that used to try to bash everybody. And we told him, I said, I'm telling you, you need to stop now because it will come back. Not only by you, but by company. Now, what I tell every company, I started this off on my own, no help, trying to do everything. But I've always told everybody that I represent you 24/7, 7 days a week, both on and off the water. So what I do off the water, I still represent you. Yep. So if I'm messing up, it's going to get back to you somehow, some form. And so I've always told every company that, and I still believe that today. You
absolutely nailed that. And I tell folks that a lot of time. Like when you put that sticker on your vehicle or that logo on your jersey or you're wearing that hat and you're out there, you are representing that company, whether you're fishing or not. You are now associated with that company. And I'll just tell a quick story that I heard, from somebody, Hank Cherry, when he first started fishing professionally, was with Evan Williams Whiskey. Mm-hmm. And he had his boat wrapped, and he was fishing a local tournament on Norman, which is his local lake. And this is from the guy that was fishing with him. It was a team tournament, who's a good buddy of his. His first name's Craig. I'm not gonna throw Craig under the bus, but they were fishing a dock, and we know there's people that don't like people fishing docks, right? Yeah. So a lady came down and said something. Hey, get off my dock. And basically Hank was like, we can fish your dock. I'm not hitting it. We're okay. Well, that lady turned around and went in the house and called Evan Williams and basically said he was out here cussing her and doing all this stuff. They were still on the water. Phones were a fairly new thing, but he gets a phone call that at the same time from the Evan Williams. Hey, what is going on? Some lady just called, said you're out there. So that's a perfect example. when you're out there wearing your jersey, wrap boat, truck stickers, whatever it is, you're always representing that company, and the way that you act is going to reflect. When I see somebody do something stupid and I'll use Cashin because I represent them. If they have a Cashin shirt on, I'm going to associate, well, why does Cashin put up with somebody like that?
Right.
Why are they part? Is that really a company that I want to support when they have people out here acting this way? So you really have to think about that 24/7. And like Hal said, I think Trey said too, like, it doesn't shut off now. So with social media, somebody's always got a camera. It's always going to get out there when you're acting a fool. So just carrying yourself professionally at all times. We've talked about it before, so it's good to hear how, reiterate that and how important it is to carry yourself. And just be yourself too, because you talked about guys turning on when that red light comes on. It still happens. I think it was Matty Robertson on Mercer's podcast said, there's 110 guys on the elites. He said maybe 8 of them are who they really are all the time. The rest you're just seeing an act when you're up there.
Yeah.
And that, there's companies now that look for that. Are you the same person all the time? What do you like behind closed doors? And so it's, it's important to carry yourself how you would want to have somebody represent you. If they were wearing your name on their shirt, how you would want them to act.
I almost feel like, we got stickers all over our vehicles. We're not that cool and we don't have our vehicles wrapped, but I almost feel like I need a magnet that says, how's my driving? Because I'm so scared to misrepresent the podcast or, some of the promotional staff companies that we're affiliated with, because it is true, man. You are what you report, right? And if you report yourself in public like an idiot, well, then that's going to reflect back on who you represent. But I think that social media has done some good, right? And it has helped some anglers break out of that shell of everybody's cookie cutter and looks the same, because some of those personalities are good for business, right? And so based on your experience, working your way with all these companies and social media now, has that changed your behavior at all? Or have you seen it benefit others that may have not been themselves, but now they're kind of turning into more of themselves? Talking the social media stuff, has it helped you? Has it changed you? Have you seen it change a lot of people?
As far as change-wise, I got my own brand because of it now.
Yeah.
Yep.
That's all I'll say.
I
can't grow a beard
best mustache.
like him and Shaw have a little
they got the competition
going
best
on.
Mustache and
If you didn't catch the reference, you guys got to go back and listen to the previous episode. I promise you this one complements that. So.
Well, Shaw and I, every time we see each other, Shaw always says, all right, who's got the best? And we're always pulling. But I tell him, mine can come down. It's coming down all the way down. I'm going to have it long. That's going to come out and do this. So I actually got my brand now. So I get my clothing out. So,
that's awesome.
Fish Fear the Stash.
That's right.
Hal Abshire
That's right.
Fishing. So because of that, Jeff's wife actually made me this.
That's
and
awesome.
this has been my brand now. So this is starting to be, that's my social media brand. So all my boats have all been wrapped. My trucks are wrapped and everything, and I quit it. I finally let's stop, because when you have a wrapped boat, you have a wrapped truck, people follow you.
Yep.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I was up on Carr Lake. I was up in a creek way up in the Virginia side, and a guy come up here and says, man, I've been looking all over for you. Guys all told me where you were. I said, how did they know? He said, are you kidding me? You're in this wrapped boat. Everybody knows where you're at. So I talked to some other sponsors. I said, look, let's just stop the wrap boat for a little bit, and wrap boats are great for companies. I mean, they're really good, but it's bad for you sometimes when you're out there and everything. Yeah. But I've had people just come up right beside you and just start waypointing where you're at and everything.
Yeah.
Binoculars have done everything. And I used to say, why are y'all following me? I'm lost too. I'd like to throw it out that way, but yeah. But as far as that, I've got my own brand now because of social media. We're talking about putting up a clothing line on this. I'm going to do a whole deal with this, and so we've made stickers. His wife made me the stickers and everything. So we're putting them on my boat and everything. So it's been pretty neat.
Yeah,
that's awesome.
So that's helped me for branding wise and everything. So I'm doing that. But has it not changed me? No, not at all. And I don't want to. Yeah. I still believe in the handshake. I still believe in that face to face, and I want to be like that. I want to go up to you and say, hey, thank you for being with me. I've got sponsors that I've been with for like 15 years, almost 20 years. We're family.
Yep.
And I called them up this past year, and the lady asked me, she said, how are you calling me up because we're late on getting you some of your product? And I said, no. She said, is something wrong? And I said, no. She said, well, what's going on? I said, I just want to say thank you.
Yeah.
It was complete, like drop the phone, like here's the mic, you know. And she said, oh my God, no one's ever done that. I said, well, I just wanted to thank you. You know, she says, we just love you, you know, but that went a long way.
Yeah.
Right.
You know, I did that with another company. The lady who actually sends my hooks to me sent me a card and said, I'm sorry we're late because we're out of stock on this certain brand. And I just called her up and I said, you know, hey, I just wanted to thank you for letting me know and thank you for what you do. And she goes, oh my God, no one's ever done that. But it made her day because here's a lady working in there. Mm-hmm. So that's what I'm trying to tell. If I could tell anybody that, be sure to say thank you.
Yeah.
You know, my God, thank you will go a long way. You know, and they'll remember that because everybody else has got the handout for the show, not the handshake, like I was telling people. Yeah. This is the biggest handout shake there is. And just say thank you. I mean, come back to the people. These people are, you know, they don't have to do this for us in the first place, you know.
Yep.
And for me to be with this company this long, well, I've got two of them, like I said, 15 to 20 years.
Yeah.
They're family. One calls me brother all the time, and he runs the whole company. He says, you're like my brother, you know. And how many big companies will say that to you? But I have built that up with these companies this way.
Yeah.
And you know, it's just because you stay who you are, you know.
Yeah.
You don't become a diva.
You have more value. Yeah.
Listen, I've seen the divas.
Yeah.
I've been in a booth with one guy. I got out of the booth because I said, if it rains in here, he's going to drown. You know, just flat out. I mean, I just flat out said it. And I walked out and I said, when you get him out, I'll come back because that boy's going to drown in a minute.
Yeah. Oh, you should have put your sponsored rain suit on.
It's important to remember it's a partnership, and
it is.
And while it is transactional to a point because you're getting product or a discount on product, you're providing them money and time. It's still a partnership. You know, they're going to help promote you. You're going to help promote them, and it's important to let them know. You know, thank you for letting me represent you and work with you. But you also brought up something really interesting when you talked about how you created, you know, you have a brand now. And I think it got me thinking, like, your brand as an angler now is how people associate you. It's not, they don't associate an angler with, they don't associate a company with an angler. They associate an angler with a company, if that makes sense. So the angler's first now, where it used to be, if you thought like Team Toyota, you instantly thought Ike and Ellie. You thought of Gerald Swindle. That now, you know, it is still a little shocking when those guys switch from a sponsor, but it's more, you know, the brand. We've talked at length about Milliken Fishing. The guy built his brand, Ben Milliken, before he really stepped into the big tournament to where he knew folks, people knew his name, he could provide value, and he did that all through social media. You see Chris Zaldane's getting really big on social media. Who's the Australian angler?
Carl Jockinson.
Carl Jockinson. I can't believe I forgot
Fear
Carl's
My
name.
Heart.
Fear My Heart built his brand. Hal's building his brand. You know, Hank Cherry has built his brand with his own logo. All these folks.
And think of all the people who built their fishing brands who have never picked up a rod in a tournament.
Absolutely.
And
there's plenty of YouTube folks out there with 1 million subscribers that have never fished a tournament in their life.
It's amazing you say that. I've got a friend that didn't have a boat, didn't have nothing, but he would fish as a co-angler a little bit, and they were sending him all kinds of stuff. You know, he says, oh man, I'm getting everything. But his social media, that's what he was doing.
Yeah.
You know, people love to bash on social media. It's an easy thing. You guys know this, but I'm a big fan of it because I can't think of a time in history when a few companies have gotten so big, not to the detriment of the little guy.
Yeah.
Because you think of all the individual brands, small companies that can produce product and sell internationally from their house.
Yeah.
And like, you could never do that 25 years ago.
No.
And so it's kind of like leveled the playing field in a lot of ways. And I mean, and that's some of the reason why we're seeing some of the issues in the industry, because everything's changing. And that's just, the whole world's changing that way. But it's for the co-anglers. They can be just as valuable to a company as, you know, one of your top name pros.
Yeah.
It just depends on how well they push push that. It all comes down to content. Content's king. Whoever's making the best content is getting the most views, and some of that we may enjoy. It may be really educational. I think we all enjoy the educational learning point. Other people love the comedic, over the top.
Yeah.
But that's their preference.
It's good advertising all the way around.
You know,
I mean,
so.
And it's crazy to think how, you know, Hal talked about fishing in the 80s and coming up. He's like, man, I wish we had a movie camera.
Yeah.
And now
everyone's got a movie.
A lot of these pro anglers have an entire film crew following them around and basically shooting a movie at every point.
Yeah.
You know, they're shooting in ultra high def and slow motion, and they got drones and they've got all this wild stuff going on because they understand that, you know, we talked about it before, 1% of anglers, right, are tournament anglers. They follow what's going on, whether it's regionally, nationally, internationally. The rest of those touch points that used to be Hal, me, Ben, Trey, everybody growing up looking at that Bassmaster magazine, waiting for the big hardback Bass Pros catalog to come, right? So you could see the new stuff. Now, those kids, those folks that are learning like us are going to YouTube, they're going to Instagram, they're going to TikTok, they're going to all those places. And so building your brand as Hal's doing, you know, and continues to grow that and shifting with the industry instead of complaining about it or you know, trying to push back on technology and say it's ruining everything, which I'm well versed here that I think social media is a cesspool because of the way people act. But as a brand for myself, the podcast, OneCast Fishing, Hal, Trey, all of us personally, it's great that I can push stuff out there and I can show y'all how we do our thing. So what do you, how is your focus in social media? You say you want to go for growth. Is there specific content that you think is important, or is it just, you know, is it educational? Is it product highlight, or is it kind of all encompassing in social media? What do you think, you know, for yourself or for somebody that's trying to grow is most important?
Well, Jeff and I had been talking about this, so I'm kind of versed in this one here. They don't care what you put out. I mean, they do care if it's bashing and everything.
Yeah. I
don't care if it's, hey, look, I'm playing with the dogs today.
Yeah.
All of a sudden, there's Hal Abshire out there talking, and there's people's going to like it. And hey, yeah, I've got a dog, da-da-da. Or Hal Abshire's got a cow out here. We're going to bring him. Now, I say that because there's people here, they're putting stuff out there on different things other than fishing. Mm-hmm. Then all of a sudden, you're going, well, hey, just like, for instance, I put my grandson on out there the other day.
Yep,
he's wearing my old Carolina Bassers jacket.
Yep.
That brought back memories. A guy from Ohio says, man, I can remember that. You know, you need to do a retro tournament now, you know. You never know what it's going to bring and tick people and say, yeah, man, that's cool. I want to follow him. But it's also great for fishing wise. But as long as people are seeing you on the internet, I kind of told you that I've been off for about a month. Mm-hmm. Well, just tell everybody I've had 2 surgeries, and I did it during the off season. We all do that.
Yep.
So, I mean, I'm recovering from a knee surgery now, so I can fish again. And so that has put me behind the curve. Well, my boss man over here has told me I need to get off my butt and get back on social media.
Yeah.
I've lost 100 people off of my Instagram just because I have been slow to going back onto it because I didn't feel like it. So now I've got to do little stuff just to build up. Well, I'm not on the water. I can't even drive yet hardly. And so I've got to find other ways to do it. So that's what we're looking at. I'm looking at different things that people want to see. But what I'm also doing in behind all that is bringing Hal Abshire back up in the crowd. No matter if it's fishing, taking a kid out, riding a gator, doing stuff like that, I'm in the limelight somewhere. So it not only goes to Instagram, it goes over here to my Facebook page.
Yep.
So, you know, you got a couple thousand over here, got a couple thousand over here. Well, that's going to build up again, you know. So it goes both ways. I've just seen people who's pros, they don't always show about their fishing.
Yep.
No.
They're showing, hey, I'm going hunting today, or I'm going to go do this. What they're doing is, some of them have got contracts where they literally, there's one guy in particular, has to do it, I think, every day. I know each week he has to put stuff on internet. He has to have it. It's in his contract. So
consistency is basically what we're getting at. Is more important.
It is keeping your face out there. It's keeping your name. And once your name is in there, it's like, hey, I'm Hal Abshire. I'm associated with this company right here. This company right here. Hey, yeah, I seen you the other day. Well, this past year, it's already this past year. February of this past year, I had a 30-pound bag.
Yep.
The next week, I had a 40-pound bag. Wednesday to Wednesday. That got more coverage than you never shake a stick at. Yep. I had people come to me when we fished PBC.
Yep.
I'm going down the boat ramp. It's dark. I'm waiting on the guy to bring my boat up. And the guy goes, taps me on the shoulder. Aren't you Hal Abshire? I said, yes, sir. He goes, I've been following you, man. That'd been great what you've been catching. Didn't even know the guy.
Yep.
But he's following me, and he's seeing that. He didn't even ask me where I caught him, because I would have told him somewhere. But, but I mean,
in the water.
That right there, those 2 weeks right there got me more media attention than you can ever think about.
Yeah.
Not that I want anything later on, but it's just those 2 days, because we had one almost 10 pounds and one almost 9 pounds in the group too. So that right there has gone just gigantically. Well, I just made the front cover of a magazine, our catalog, from that one fish.
Really?
And so Daiichi hooks, the True Turn, X Point, they put me on front of their cover with that big fish.
That's awesome.
So here's an old boy from, as I told Jeff, old country boy from Harnett County. I'm on the front page, and what I try to tell people there, I've been on front pages before, but it's amazing what it does for you for your resume. It helps you. Other people are seeing that, So when they see it, and this is going all over the world. So I mean, it goes into like places like Bassmaster Magazine. Yeah. So if you looked at the article this year, Bassmaster Magazine always rates the top 10 or top 5 lakes in each state. Jordan Lake was one of them. Yeah.
And it specifically talked about the bags that were weighed in during PBC and cat trails from the tournaments that we fished. That it wasn't the 40-pound bag, but they're going to look at stuff like that. So like you're associated with things that you don't even know you're probably associated with. You talked about having cameras in the past.
Well, just one more thing, like you talked about, and that comes back to partnership. So they see him catch those fish. Daiichi recognizes the value there, and they put him on the front of the catalog.
Yep.
So those partnerships are important. And speaking of partnerships, Carolina Waters is important to us. They were one of our first partners here at the OneCast. They make awesome gear for your outdoor lifestyle, whether you're fishing, whether you're just out running around with the kids, surfing, whatever it is outside. They make something that will fit your needs. Head to CarolinaWatersNC.com. Check out their full line of outdoor apparel. They just got some really sweet hoodies on. I was trying to pick them up today. My order is in before the show so I could show it off, but I couldn't meet up with Brad over there to get them. So I'm going to get them tomorrow. So I'll have one tomorrow night for Fishing Friday to show off. But make sure you head to CarolinaWatersNC.com. Use the code TheOneCast, all one word at checkout. Save 20% off. Get you a hat, some shirts, T-shirts, sunwear, hoodies, and then there's some exciting products that are going to be coming out here soon that they've been working on. Again, that's CarolinaWatersNC.com. Code TheOneCast, 20% off. Make sure you let them know we sent you. And I just texted them today to thank them for their partnership over the last year, and hopefully our continued partnership, and make sure you thank them as well if you see them, and come check us out at the show. So
yeah, I know my kid's been sporting the beanies because it's been drastically cold here. But Hal, so talking about the camera back in the day, like we wish we had cameras following us around. Did we realize how much work it really took now that cameras are readily available? It's because you talk about off season, but we really don't have, and I say we because the podcast doesn't have an off season. The tackle company doesn't have an off season. Your brand doesn't have an off season. So how demanding is it for you?
It's very, because this man standing over the corner, if I'm not doing something right, he'll call me up and say, hey, we need to get this going. So I work for Jeff. Jeff is so fantastic. I'm so beyond happy to have a friend like Jeff. Jeff's background was in marketing and sales, and just fantastic with his just ability to push me on, you know. And without somebody like that, you know, I'm like, okay, I'm just a good old boy. I'll kind of slide over here and do this and this. So it's changed a whole lot to where now I'm one of the fortunate ones that's got somebody like Jeff to help me. It's not every day, you know, a guy at my level will say, hey, I've got somebody that is in the promotion area and sales like Jeff Makar. So Jeff has really been my, you know, my knight in shining armor in the fishing industry for me, you know. So that's been super good to have somebody like that. By myself, I don't know that I would have done it as much, but I have always made sure, and a big company from Japan, I was the first one to ever give them reports. They had never had quarterly reports from nobody. And next thing you know, years later, they're like, you better give me a quarterly report. So, you know.
He set the bar for
you. So with all my companies, I did a quarterly report. And a lot of them had never, ever had it. In fact, the big company I was talking to today, I gave them my reports as well. And he told me, he said, it's went all over. Your report has went all over. And it's because of that man right there. He's changed my reports. My reports went from the good old boy of reporting. This man here has put his thumb on it and said, hey, look, let's change it. And I'm with Onyx rain suits. You come with rain suits.
You brought up the rain.
And just before we go into that, we didn't mention at the beginning when we did our rules, but any time you can shout out any partner.
Well,
you don't have to hold back.
You want.
Okay.
We're here for you as much as you're here for us. We want to make sure they get recognized.
ONYX. Okay.
There you go.
Check them out, folks.
But they, it's just with the suits and everything like that. I mean, we gave her our first one. Like, she come back to me. She said, and I gave Jeff the compliment. I said, this woman here said, that was so easy to read. It was great to read. You know, so you've got to watch how you do your reports.
Yeah.
And I used to get a report too when we helped sponsor some people when at the place I was at. It was like one line. I fished a tournament on Sharon Harris. That was it. Yeah. Well, what did you do? What did you throw? Where'd you finish? They want to know all that kind of stuff. So Jeff has broke it down even more, and just pictures. We've put pictures with the stories and everything. So that's helped out. So I would tell anybody, take pictures.
Yeah.
Even if you don't have the pro cameras on the back, take pictures with your phone and hang on to that and send it in to them. They want to see that.
Yeah.
We make a joke about, I carry about 5 or 6 different hats in my boat. When I catch a big fish, I'm like, changing hats.
Same here.
You know, and we joke about it. Well, I just made the front of a magazine because I flipped onto one of those hats.
Yeah. Right.
And, you know, it just helps out. You got to think in your head ahead of time, like, okay, how can I promote this company more? And so there's 4 or 5 hats in there. I always tell everybody, well, it's in case it flies off or something. No, it's when I need a hat. So.
Well, it's for both, for sure. It's for both.
That comes back to partnership. You understand the value, you know, where you're adding value to those companies. And the biggest thing you can do is take that picture of that 9, 10, 6, 8, whatever it is, whatever the big fish to you with that company's hat or shirt on. And the power of, you know, just to give, like you brought up Onyx, you know, rain suits. I think like 5 guys in the club have gone out and bought them just because of your use and word of mouth and you talking about how much you enjoyed them. So, you know, that right there's 5 sales that they may not have just because Hal Abshire said, hey, I use this and they're great if you're looking for new rain gear, and, you know, they went out and purchased them. So that's just an example that I know 100% because I know the guys that bought them and they have told us I bought them because Hal said they're great.
I will tell you just on Onyx, I was at ICAST in Florida. The booth was right next to us, and I was working with Gator Guards. That's been one of my sponsors for a long time until they got sold. A rep come up to me, and he had met me before, and he said, Hal, I want to do something good for you. And I said, well, I appreciate that. He said, what would you like to have from the Onyx Corporation. And I said, money? I mean, that was honest. He goes, well, what about anything else other than that? I said, well, what kind of product are we talking about? Because now they're the ones sponsoring MLF with if you look, all their life jackets has got Onyx, rain suits, everything. Haute Depot, big Onyx.
Yep.
So I said, well, okay, I could use some rain suits and, and whatever then. He says, I wish I had your resume. I said, be right back. I go to these shows. I have that resume with me. Not one. I'll carry like 5 or 6.
Yep.
Yeah, I know I could send it to you, but no. I want you to have my resume. You're sitting at that hotel that night, nothing to do. You're watching old TV. You done talk to your wife. Man, let me look at this guy's resume. Next morning, he's coming back up to me like, dude, I can't believe you had a resume. I said, you better believe it. You want another one? He just started laughing. I get a phone call. I'm walking around in Walmart shopping. I was grocery shopping. It's the vice president of Onyx. And it's like, is this Hal? I'm like, yeah. He said, well, hey, this is so-and-so. I want to talk to you about, sponsorship. I said, let me get away from the speaker. I'm like, dude, I'm in the bread section making a deal. And it's been beautiful ever since.
Yeah.
So
I wanted to dive in on that, but you already brought it up. So, we talked about, building those bridges at the local tournament level, going to those fishing expos and those shows, social media, of course. You talked about taking a boat wrap off. Is a boat wrap and a jersey still applicable, in your opinion, for marketing and selling product, or more for other reasons?
I would take the shirt over the boat because, and I'll tell you what, right here is a good example, okay? I'm going to do this, folks. Right here is prime real estate. And I try to tell everybody that's getting their shirts done from here up, because where I'm sitting right now, I'm blocking most of the people down here. So when you're talking to me, we're on camera, or if I'm doing something with pictures, here's my prime real estate. No matter how many times this picture gets taken, one time it can be out 10, 15 different times everywhere else. Now, just like Ben with his company, if Ben had sunglasses covering up right here, because a lot of guys put their sunglasses right here. Well, I did some speaking engagements at different colleges, and I told him, I said, take those sunglasses off that hat. And he looked at me. That's your advertisement for your sponsor right there. You're covering up everything there can. So you make sure of that. And I said, make sure your top people are here. Because if you're sitting at a table, I want that advertisement there forever. Mm-hmm. And no matter what, that boat is only one time you're seeing that boat up and down. I think the jersey is the big thing.
Yeah.
And I always make sure this is prime real estate. You got your big one, yeah. But then everyone else up here, you better believe those are my go-tos, big time.
And I think that kind of reiterates what Harvey talked about when we had him on, because he talked about you used to be able to call somebody and say, I'll put you on the wrap, and they would figure miles and cost per mile because you're a rolling billboard.
Yes, sir.
And he said now companies don't, not that they don't care, but it's not at the top of the list. They don't. It doesn't really matter that you drive 10,000 miles this year. It doesn't have the same value that it used to.
Pete, that was a big thing. That was a really big thing years ago. We had to figure out how many miles. I had an article written about me and another guy that was local here, but he was on FLW. And he came back and told me, he said, man, we got like 35,000 hits last night. I said, what are you talking about? He said, you didn't even know it. He said, but you're already written about your boat and truck being wrapped, and mine too. And he said, it's amazing how many hits. And he was talking about how many miles we ran, how much advertisement we ran. And that's what their whole connection was then. But you don't never talk about now. You don't hear people talking about it, how much that boat wrap means.
Yeah.
And plus, I mean, you're looking between $2,000 to $3,000 to boat wrap. If that company's not doing it, then it's coming out of your pocket. Yep. And I'm hoping that you're going to get some money somewhere from somebody. So,
well, when was the last time you had your boat wrapped?
A couple years ago. I have been very fortunate. And I'll tell you this, and not many people are going to understand this. I would have 2 to 3 trucks wrapped a year. Every oil change, I've got a brand new truck.
Huh.
Every oil change, I got a brand new truck wrap. Lear gave me a camper shell. I had my camper shell done. I had my truck done. I had my boat done. I had a free boat wrap, free truck wraps, and I've never ever paid for a boat wrap in my life. So
awesome.
The company I was with, every 5,000 miles, I got a brand new truck. So I would have two trucks, one taking the wrap off, and they would have another wrap on another truck waiting for me to go. They'd be putting the camper shell out, and I would go.
Yeah.
And so I've never, ever, ever paid for a boat wrap, and I never will. And I will tell everybody, if you do a boat wrap with the company that's going to do it for you, yeah, they're the big center of attention. But you see where the guys are putting on top of the rail.
Yep.
Well, I had done that years ago. But I don't put it in the wrap.
Yep.
If you lose them, take that old heat dryer, they're off.
Yeah.
But if you stick it in your boat wrap,
It's there forever.
it's there.
It's
It's there
there.
until you take it off.
Yeah.
So I would always tell them, I said, I want all my decals on top. Here's your main deal. I know if I lose them, it's going to go anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, yeah. So,
Yeah, you're starting to see that where they're using vinyl stickers, for those secondary and tertiary sponsors because they do
Yes,
from
sir.
time to time swap, your title sponsor. Like you said, if you lose them, you're not going to be fishing anyway. So because they're, those are
Yeah.
the ones that, in tournament that you're looking for to help carry you.
I just had a major sponsor come up to me this past year, and he says, he come into Hal Mart, and he goes, your boat's not wrapped. I said, no, sir. And I said, and no one wants to do it, so it's going to stay unwrapped. I've got a couple things on my windshield, my brand, and just a few
Right.
things I have to have. And he said, okay. He says, I'm going to stroke you out a check anyway. So he sat right there and stroked out a big check for me.
Yeah.
He didn't ask me to wrap it, nothing. He says, I just want to make sure that you're having fun. Now, how many sponsors are you going to find doing that?
I don't know.
Very, very few. Yeah.
I'm not sitting here bragging. I'm just telling you.
Yeah.
That's what relationships with companies will bring. And he just says, he didn't say, I want you to make sure you bring me advertising. He said, I want to make sure that you have fun. And I mean, that's tremendous. That's tremendous, especially today. I mean,
That's almost unheard of. And
it's very unheard of.
I think it speaks to the value that you bring, as an angler and as an influencer, if you want to say that, or, a social media presence, a salesman. At the end of the day, if we're working with sponsors, those partners, we're salesmen for them. So, it just goes to show the value that you add because, that's been a long time since I've heard anything like that in fishing. So that's refreshing that at least one company out there, still thinks that way.
Yeah. Well, that's a value-based relationship rather than a transactional-based relationship. So we hit on a lot of things talking about, like, you gave a lot of insight, like how to build that foundation of getting into the industry, setting conditions with your, with your behavior and how to create a reputation and how to approach some of these companies. You talked about this resume, which is really important. I kind of want to move on to fishing for what I wanted to ask is, so business relationships, fishing tournaments, working with sponsors, working your way up, who have been some of the most inspirational people in the bass fishing world or outside the bass fishing world that have kind of helped you? I know you said you started it by yourself, but who have been some of your most inspirational people that you met along the way?
That's a pretty tough one there.
Besides Shaw. No, not besides Shaw. I mean, like, because, and it doesn't have to be inspirational, but some of the best.
I think influential
Influential.
is probably,
influential, like, mentors or just friends and stuff like that.
Another guy I was talking to today, I've been on the phone all day, as you can tell. Two sponsors have been going. So, the one guy I was talking about, he says, you don't realize this, but you mentored me. Mm-hmm. And I didn't realize it. And he's in Arkansas now. And he says, you mentored me as a college student. And that's what I'd love to be there to all these young people coming up now, and anybody. And so I had to look for some people too. But my very first one was my uncle. Mm-hmm. My dad was killed when I was 10 years old, going to Vietnam. So I had nobody. And when I was telling Jeff today, I said, my mom gave me a shotgun at 12 years old, go out and hunt. You know, go fish. We did that back then, you know. And so my uncle, he lived in Pennsylvania, but he would go to Florida at the St. John's and stay at some of the camps. He'd bring his trailer down there, and he would load up all the baits and everything he could buy for me. He'd go to 2 or 3 tackle places, and he would bring just a big tackle box home to me. So when he come back up, going to Pennsylvania, he'd come to the house, and he would just hear a little Hal, here, this is what they're doing down in Florida. This is what he gave me this lipless bait. I'm like, what the heck is this with no bill on it, you know? I'm like, there's a rattle trap. Yeah. I didn't know what a rattle trap was. I said, I'm going to throw this stupid looking thing. It's got no bill on it, you know? And when I finally threw it, I'm like, good Lord, this thing, and oh God, a fish got it. But he was my mentor growing up because, you know, a lot of people have dads or a grandpa or anything like that. They were all dead. And I'm like, I didn't have anybody. So my uncle, he become my mentor. He told me my first boat, it sucked. He said, you're not going to go nowhere. And he says, you need a boat. You know, if you're going to fish with the big boys, be like the big boys. And I learned from that, I had to dress like the big boys. I had to look like the big boys if I wanted to be with the big boys. And that's what my mindset was. Man, my tournament shirts was all tucked in. I was, you know, everything was sharp. Well, I had a 50 bomber bass boat with a tri-hull on it with captain seats like these are, riding around like that. And it was a pull rope 50. And I built me a kill switch on it so I could fish big tournaments. Yeah. Well, the guys tickled me because they all made fun. They said they never saw anybody jump on the back of a boat, do this number, and run up there and kill switch so I could be in the tournament. And I did. I wouldn't even look back. I would not even look back. So I made the first state finals in a 50 horsepower bomber bass boat, 1970 something. And I put a flooring in it and everything. My uncle looked at me and says, still ain't going to do it, son. So time I made the state finals, I went out and bought me a brand new Stratus bass boat.
There you go.
And a big 150 on it, you know, just black max on it. And I'm like, man, I'm cool. But when it come to pros and stuff, I think, you know, I was once listening to Hank Parker, to Jimmy Houston, you know, Bill Dance. I mean, those were the 3 main guys. And I would look to see how they carried themselves. Now, in saying that, isn't it funny now? They were like my heroes. Now I can sit down, just like I'm sitting with Ben. Me and Hank can sit there and talk. Hey, Hal. Hey, Hank. Mm-hmm. We've become friends, and we did an interview 3 or 4 years ago. Guys wanted to interview us down there, and I said, I don't want to interview. I want to just talk. Yep. And we talked, and Hank, when we got up, Hank said, that was one of the best deals we've had in a long time. You didn't interview me. I didn't interview you. We just talked about fishing. And it was just like, you could hear a pin drop in that whole place, you know, because we just talked. Mm-hmm. And I think Hank is like, you know, a big person to follow. You know, his Christian faith is strong. I mean, he's still got it, you know. Yep. You know, he knows how to talk to a crowd. Yeah. And I'm getting ready to do the show at Anglers Choice coming up in there, and Hank will probably be there. And he and I always have a good, you know, conversing with the crowd and everything like that. So he's another one that was a really good follow. But yeah, I think, and you know, I know you probably wanted to hear about a fishing guy.
I wanted to hear whatever he had to say.
But my uncle, he's dead now. He was my big mentor. So I think everybody's maybe got a relative, maybe, or even a friend,
sure,
a friend next door. And that's what I've tried to be to a bunch of young guys coming up, you know. I try to be that guy. I try to be that uncle, you know. As another guy out in Arkansas, he calls me Pops now because he said, you're more like my dad than my dad, you know, because I taught him, I made him a Carolina rig monster from, you know, before he left here. And he was like, man, I can't leave this Carolina rig stuff, which everybody else hates, but you know, I catch my fish on. So for the most part, I get somebody with a big, I throw an ounce weight on it and I go at it and I go, so I'll knock you out if I hit you with the weight type deal, you know. So.
Well, I mean, everybody has, you know, you hear that question asked a lot, like, who is your inspiration? How did you get into it? But I've been surprised that there's been so many different answers. You know, it's not just professional anglers. In fact, a lot of it's family or relatives or great friends that introduce you to the outdoors. But one thing I have heard, or we've all heard, is when you want to get into this world or any really profession or anything you do, like, really important to find a mentor,
Yep.
like somebody that you can trust, that you have a value-based relationship with, that's going to steer you in the direction that they think you should go in. Because even retiring from the Army, like, I'm going to have to find a mentor on the outside of the Army to figure out what the heck I'm going to do next.
That's
You know what I mean?
That'll be me.
Yeah, I'm going to pick Pete, 100%. So
What did I tell you?
what's that?
What did I tell you when you asked what? I told you 2 words.
Oh, man. I don't
said
know.
enjoy life.
Enjoy life in my Facebook post. Yeah.
Because I'm
Yep.
telling you, when you retire, I told another friend this. I said, don't go to work right away.
Nope.
You will smoke yourself out doing that.
Yep.
I took 6 to 9 months off,
Yeah.
and best thing you can ever do.
That's what every single person said.
The guy I replaced when I went to work was actually my maintenance commander.
Really?
And he told me he went straight to work the next day. He says the worst thing he ever died.
Yeah.
And he died after that when I replaced him.
Did he
He had
really?
Agent Orange. He was a pilot during Vietnam. And he told me, he says, I wish I would have done what you did.
Yeah.
So I would tell anybody that's going to retire, because, you retire at a young age when you're in the military,
Yeah.
and just enjoy life for a while.
That's what I'm going to do.
It's too short.
Yeah.
You know.
I'm going to go sling 1 ounce weights around with a Carolina.
Do it.
Well, that leads me to the next question. So, a lot of anglers are known for, especially the old gangsters, right? Like, they're known for something. The Tommy Biffles, the Fritzes, Shaw,
Hank.
He's a master with like a spinnerbait, isn't he? Yeah.
Yeah.
What would you pride yourself on being like that? That's my main go-to technique. I know you're awesome with jigs, by the way.
Well, young guy I teamed up with tournaments. I met him through when I used to go up to NC State and do speaking engagements up there with them. And I pulled him to the side. I said, look, it's been a long time since I did a team tournament because I had an awful experience with a Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde guy.
Yeah.
And I had him through because of a sponsor. That's the only reason he was in the boat with me. And I swore off being team deal. Well, I pulled him aside. I said, look, there's a benefit tournament going to be at Jordan. And I said, would you fish it with me? And I said, look, if you don't like me, if I don't like you, before we get out of the parking lot, we'll talk about it.
Yeah.
I said, no hard feelings. And I fished with him, and I stopped, and we finished like second or third, and the first time we ever fished together. And he goes, I said, what do you think? I slammed on the brakes. I said, what do you think? We stopped up there where the bathroom. I just slammed on the brakes. I didn't let him go any further. I said, you like me? You like you fishing-wise? He goes, he just smiled. He said, yeah, let's do it. I said, okay. So 3 years, man, we just tore it apart, and we won a championship and everything together. And so the kids from NC State, they'd ask me, man, what's Hal do to catch all them fish? He says, you really want to know? And he made a joke about it. He go, Carolina rig. He said, what? He's not a Carolina rig. He said, that's all the man throws is Carolina rig. and he said, I've never seen anybody catch big fish. And he's out there throwing these big old crankbaits, like this. And I'm just throwing a Carolina rig right behind him and just bringing them up, And that sort of have become my forte with it, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
Now, when it comes to shallow stuff, yeah, I got some other stuff that I think is great.
We'll talk about that off camera.
But
We do have the map right here.
That's right. It's funny how we get associated, because he's telling that story, Carolina rig, and all I can think of is how much money I've donated to Todd Parker and his dumb wacky rig.
Yeah. That's right.
But that and I'll be honest with you, like the sink and catch worm. And I'm not saying because it's just Deep Creek, but honestly, when I came back from when I blew my bicep out from fishing so much.
That was 2 years ago.
2 years ago, yeah.
You need to put that on your resume, by the way.
Look, I blew this out setting the hook on on Harris, and then they my rotator cup. I know we're getting off the subject.
No, you're good.
But then he told me, he says, "Oh my God, do you fish all the time?" He said, "You're worn out." He said, "You'll be back." 4 years later, I blew this completely out. I fished the championship up on Carr. My bicep was down here, and I'm trying to sling spinner baits, and so I'd go left-handed. Marty Stone told me, he said, "If you don't learn to throw left-handed, I'm going to get you when we fish together." So I had to learn throwing left-handed, and so that helped me out. So we put that back together and put the ligaments all back together. And I'm like, yeah, I can do this, So it's like I've been a bionic man. So like you said, and then I blew my meniscus out last year, and they repaired it. Now they said I'm bone, and I'd fall in the boat just netting a fish because my knee had given out on me so much. So now I've repaired the entire knee. So if somebody says fishing's not a contact sport, look at my scars. That's all I'll tell you, man. How many guys have come on and say, hey, this is what we're doing during the off season,
I mean, you and Shaw.
Yeah. You and Shaw. Oh, yeah.
But no one really understands how much stamina it takes. When you're fishing a full day in the summertime, 12 hours a day.
Yeah.
If there's any waves out there offshore bouncing around, like it takes a lot of physical stamina.
And then add the multi-day tournaments into
Oh, yeah. We're not even talking. Yeah.
Yeah. And, here's another thing that might help somebody. My wife got me a cushion, and it's Ergo's cushion actually to sit in my seat because I've hit so many big waves. Ghost waves is what gets you.
Oh yeah.
Where'd the boat come from? It's gone, but there's a ghost wave coming at you, and you pound.
It's a wake boat.
Yeah. Oh yeah, definitely. but I mean, I put a cushion down just to help me. Rick Klung sits. He sits on
memory
buoys.
foam.
Yeah. He sits on buoys. And the other thing is, you take your wallet out of your back pocket.
Oh yeah.
Yep.
That's number one.
And I sit it in my center console.
Yeah, that's where mine gets.
One, because if I'm out there drowning, I'm like, or you fall out and they don't have everything wet, which I've done that too, head first. but I mean, there's so many things that goes on for the body.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, we take such a beating, and look how long I've been doing this. And I mean, my body is. I'll tell you this too. I tell everybody, be careful of skin cancer.
Yep.
We're out there in the hot sun, like Ben said, 12 hours a day.
Yep.
I had a little tiny dot right here. End up 42 stitches later, getting that little tiny dot out.
Wow.
So if I could tell any of the listeners here, it's not a crazy thing to go get checked out. I go once a year to UNC dermatology, one of the best there is. And if they hadn't found it, it was right over the lymph nodes.
Right.
And that little tiny dot they found, because they have teachers in there. They have doctors, and then the doctors to come in too. So they checked me over 2 or 3 times in one day.
I try to explain that to people with all, they see us fishing and they see us with our long UPF shirts and we're wearing gloves, and sometimes you have the face shield on, and they're like, why you doing all that just to look like the pros? And it's like, no, you don't understand. Like, I know last year I spent well over 100 and some days on the water, and most of those days are sunny and hot, and sunscreen's not enough. You got to protect yourself. And skin cancer, I hate to hear that you fought that, and I'm not trying to stigmatize or throw you in a category, but talk to any old angler that's been doing it for a long time, and almost every single one of them has the same story.
That's right.
They found a dot here, they found this there, and I ended up with with skin cancer.
We didn't know any better back then.
Exactly.
And that's why the company that's supporting y'all, Carolina Waters, I mean, that's great with all they have.
Yep.
So I mean, that's a great deal that they're doing for you. I had to go get a spot taken off my hand. Now I know to wear gloves, but over the time, so now they've looked at me and said, all right, now we want you to come back twice a year. I said, no argument, I'm coming. It's a very dangerous thing, skin cancer. So I'm very, very well aware of it, and I make sure I put all the lotion on and everything.
Puts the lotion on its skin.
But my bad thing is if I do it at home, all it's going to do is rain. So I wait till I get in the boat. If I do it at home, it's not going to be sunshine. So I wait until I get in the boat.
So Hal, Hal is superstitious.
Yes. Yep.
Banana or no banana, Hal?
You know what? It has never bothered me about a banana.
Oh, same here.
Never has. I've had certain things that I would do for superstition wise or anything like that, but I've never had anybody really put a banana in the boat.
I have.
Wait, be more specific. Like, wear the same pair of underwear without being washed. Like, what did you do?
There's certain hats and certain T-shirts I will not wear.
Oh.
Different colors or different things that I will not wear because when I've worn them, I've sucked.
Yeah.
And I've come to find out that it's not only me.
No.
So it's a fish sometimes, and that's the way I'm gonna look at it.
Yeah.
But and you know what? I will not wear a certain hat.
Yep.
Because mentally, I'm thinking I got that hat on. And when it starts going bad, I'm like, man. Now, we just talked about this too. We laughed about it. I said, I'm already lining my hats up on my boat from when we go to Okeechobee.
Yeah.
So I know which hats I'm going to bring down there, which shirts I'm going to bring down there and everything. So
I was on a hot streak fishing last year, the year before in tournaments, and I was having a really good run, and then I forgot my hat one day, and I just grabbed one of the spares in the back truck. I think I had one keeper that day, and all I could think about the entire day was the hat.
But you see, now mentally, you've thought about that hat, not what you're doing.
Yeah.
No, exactly.
Yeah.
It gets in your head.
Yeah.
So I'm 100% with you on that. If I go out, if I wear a new hat and have a bad day, I'll never wear that hat fishing again.
I gotta like full disclosure. Like I used to be I still take a banana in the boat. In fact, I took a banana in the boat on Sharon Harris on the first of the year. But Pete, I wasn't catching them. So I ate the banana.
And then you caught fish.
And then I caught two.
See?
So now my mind is like,
it's the banana.
yeah, I'm conforming to your superstition.
Yeah, I figured it out, Dad.
Yeah. So, you did?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah. So we'll tell that story. Pete's dad threw a banana in his boat at Lake Norman. So now that you know. So I know it's getting a little chilly in here. Like, guys, we are, we're going on the better half of an hour and a half. I have two more questions for you. I'll turn it over to guys, but I want to ask the same questions that Pete had asked Shaw. All right. Or I asked Shaw this one, and then I think you asked him the other one. What is your most memorable in a tournament or ever? What's your most memorable fish catch? I know you dropped 40 pounds last year, but I mean like one fish, if you can think about it.
Yeah.
Pete, I'll let you ask the other one because I know what it is.
I'm going to tell you it's a fishless catch.
Oh.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. First, I'll do one. I caught a big one in a tournament at Falls Lake on a black and blue jig. It was a 9-3, and it was a fight like it was green. It was, and I referred to it like being a bulldog on the end of a chain. He'd come at the end of that chain when I was flipping. So when you're flipping, you don't have that much line out. And he went to the end of that line. Now look, guys, this is before braid.
Oh,
so this was probably 17-pound test line, maybe, and I had a pull stick for a stick and everything then, and I caught it, and that was a great catch. But the one that I missed is probably the one most memorable. And I say that because I caught this fish on a Bagley's Killer B2. Now, this was in the days before I changed hooks. This was the old factory hooks, the old silver-looking ones and everything. Didn't sharpen them because we thought they were sharp.
Yep.
And as Jeff knows, I was showing him what I was doing by the thumb test. I mean, I make sure. Even Marty Stone said I had the sharpest hooks.
You stab yourself?
Oh, yes, I do, buddy. I've done every bit. So I caught this big fish, and he's coming up out of the water. He went back down and come up with nothing but weed in his mouth, both sides. He's going, knocking everything off. He come up 3 times. I had him on 14-pound blue strand line. I mean, that's what we had back then.
Oh, mono, huh?
Oh, yeah. And the third time, he pulled off, and he's doing one of these slow dances and everything like that. And he pulled the hooks out of my crankbait. And he come up again, and my brother's with me. And I said, oh, my God, there's another one. He said, he slapped me on the back. He said, forget that. Let's get this one. All of a sudden, here comes my crankbait going, oh, God, that was the fish. He was knocking the hooks out of his mouth still, So I'll always remember that. And I will give you one catch that we was doing an outdoor show on High Rock. And this is pretty cool because the camera guy, we stayed at a hotel, and he said, I got to leave my cameras outside because it's summertime. Didn't want to bring his cameras in and would frost up,
Yeah.
It would fog up from cold to hot.
Oh, yeah.
So we're running out there in the tournament, and he's in there with the camera and everything. And so my co-angler, he jumped in the back because, my God, he'd hit every tree limb there was. He was so nervous. He was scared to death because we was on camera. They told him he couldn't smoke. He was so nervous. He was wanting to smoke. And he hit everything. I think he hit the camera guy. He hit me with the worms and everything. He was just scared to death. First time he'd ever been on a camera. So finally the guy says, look, this is not going to work. get in the back and be quiet, like that type deal. Well, 18-foot drop-off in front of a boat dock. I knew this boat dock great. It was good, but the shallow part was the best. Well, I was working my way around it, and I said, well, heck, I'll just throw this bait in there. It dropped down. All of a sudden, boom, boom, and I set the hook. And it was like, as they say, on with Donkey Kong. It was there. Right. My rod was bending down. It was going crazy. It went under the boat. It's coming up, dancing alongside there. The camera guy's going, oh, my God. I said, oh, man, he's really getting, oh, my God. He's in there rubbing his camera the whole time. He's going, doing this number and everything. The camera was so fogged up just from being heat in the morning that he lost the entire thing. No. So this boat, I'm like this, and the boat, he comes back under the boat, back towards the dock, up in the air again. He's going, oh, my God, oh, my God. Now, this guy had just come back from Alaska doing some big fish stories up there, and now he's down. He said, "Oh, okay, oh," and I'm like, "Oh man, this dude's really catching it." And then I hear him under his breath really talking. I'm like, "Oh crap!" So my guy nets it. It's a giant, right? He says, "Wait, we got to do this all over." I said, "What are you talking about?" He said, "Man, my camera was all messed up." So I'm thinking the whole time he's having a great catch.
Yeah.
Well, his great catch never took. He says, I said, I'm going to tell you something right now. I'm not throwing this fish out. I said, this ain't like some of them TV shows you've been doing and throwing the fish back out and catching it again. He says, no, just act like you just caught it. And so I did. I took it out of there. I pulled it up out of the water. Water's dripping all out, like the model with his hair and all that like that. He says, he'd been with me for 3 days doing a half-hour show, other pictures where we had caught some, and he was going to put that in. He said, we'll catch that off of some of the pictures that we've got from the last 2 days for a half-hour show now. I said, okay, all right, we'll do this. So I fixed him. So when I got this, I said, I want to thank Daiichi Hooks. I want to thank all this. I thanked 10 sponsors before it was over with, and he had to put it in there because I never let go of the fish. So if that was my greatest fish catch, that was it, because I had a buddy down in Georgia. He says, man, I was watching the show, heard this voice. He says, I knew that was you. He said, but all I heard was, I want to thank my sponsor, this sponsor, this sponsor. He said, I died laughing. He says, you got him, didn't you? He said, I said, every sponsor I had back then. I mean, it was a group of them then too. But I hit every sponsor then at one time.
You couldn't have replicated that fish catch again.
No.
Hey, can you do that again? Nah, I don't think so, bro.
The story used to be years ago, guys would throw a hammer out and play like they hook one.
Yep.
And then have a fish already in live well and bring it up for pictures. That's why I told him. I said, I ain't going to do that. Yeah. So it was pretty cool. It was, but just to say that I named all the sponsors at one hit. Oh man, and it stayed on.
That was the beginning of social media.
That's right. The first plug.
The first plug ever.
Well, if I could ever tell you this, another guy down around New Bern area, he said, man, I couldn't sleep. You get him like 2:00 in the morning. He says, I got up and turned the TV on. He said, I heard this voice. He says, he turned on the fishing show. He said, that sounds like Hal. And he turned around and looked. He says, hey, I watched you at 2:00 in the morning talking about all your sponsors catching this fish. So a guy from Georgia, a guy from New Bern, all talking about it.
Awesome. The first 2 followers. No, I appreciate it, Hal. We like to ask those questions because we all have those memories.
He nailed them both off one question.
Yeah, Pete was going to ask you, like, what is the
most memorable loss?
Yeah.
He nailed
What's the one that haunts you for the rest of your life?
Well, look, you got to think about that. When a fish pulls all the hooks out of your crankbait.
Yeah, that's...
That's a strong fish.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Yeah.
Guys, do you have anything for Hal before we let him plug everything else?
I don't have anything
else. No, I did. Before you, because we want to give you an opportunity to plug all your social medias, all your brand awareness, and all that stuff. Looks like the camera stopped.
We're not that camera we don't use.
Oh, okay, cool. So, yeah. So where can everybody find you and your brand at?
You can go Hal Abshire at with my Facebook, and then Hal Abshire at Instagram. Okay. Just straight out Hal Abshire.
Okay,
it's all one word, so easy to do.
Okay, and we'll make sure we share that stuff with everybody. But also, you're at a lot of the local shows in the Piedmont area, right?
Right.
With the Anglers Choice and different companies and stuff like that. So, the companies that support you, who do you want to mention?
Well, I'll be with Deep Creek coming up at the show. I've been with them. I'll tell you just another quick story. I'm sorry.
No, you're good.
But the lady who owned it at first, that started it, Marie, she started it, and they had a Hal Abshire Day down at one of the stores down in Gander Mountain down in Fayetteville one day.
Oh, Gander Mountain.
Yeah, so I had my boat out, and I had a bunch of stuff come in, and Marie surprised me and drew a picture. I always told her, I said, I'm going to do something on a boat where a fish is coming out of like a tear area. It's all torn up, and the fish is coming out. She drew that in black and white, and then she drew one in color. So I have the original, just like this piece of paper, I have the original drawings for Deep Creek that they use on their plastics today, their bags. And that's from her doing that for me as a gift to me. And I didn't realize she was an artist until that day.
Yeah.
So I have the original drawings for Deep Creek. And so I've been with Deep Creek through 2 owners. Yep. And the Ballarts own it now. And, just been super people to work with their plastics and everything. Just been really, really good to work with. And then they have Captain Gary's marine products as well. But I've been with Daiichi Hooks. It's TTI group. And I've been with them for like 15, 20 years, man. I mean, they just come out with Randy Howell has really come up, and we come out with the X-Point hooks. Mm-hmm. And so that's been real strong. And I've been with Spike It. I mean, if anybody likes Spike It, I mean, the thing a lot of people I see that don't understand is Spike It also makes the pencils, the markers, and I can just leave in my pocket, and just mark it and go with it, and like that. So that's been a big deal I like in doing, and different colors. They can come up with different colors that you can mix in with it. So Spike It has been with me 15, 20 years as well.
Wow.
And then I've got, Flying Fisherman sunglasses, man. I mean, I actually met them through, I thanked them. This is during Desert Storm. This is how far it goes back. I thanked them for helping a group of Army troops. They sent sunglasses over to a unit. Mm-hmm. Just gave it to them. They didn't want anything. And I don't know how. I just wrote them and said, thank you for doing it. I was at Desert Storm, and I just thought it was nice that a company did that. So they reached out to me, and we just started talking, and I didn't want nothing from them. Next thing you know, they said, well, you tournament fish, why don't we, work with you a little bit? And so that's been since Desert Storm. If you think about that, I have been with them that long. And it's like these 3 companies, I've been with that long, and every one of them will tell you we're all like family. Yeah. And when you can do that with a company, and that's what I try to stress out to these young people right now, make that connection, So I've been with them for a long, long time. And Anglers Choice, gosh, I've been with Anglers Choice. Anglers Choice has been for a long time with them as well, Yeah. So it's just, now Marty Stone talked to them. They said that they needed somebody to MC. The first time he had done one, he says, well, you need Hal Abshire to do it. So next thing you know, I'm like, oh, well, all right, I'll try, and I emceed it. Now it's like, well, can you do this other show for us? Yeah. So now I'm emceeing the show at coming up at the end of the month here in January. And I normally go to the one in the mountains in Spindale too. And so you get a lot of the pros come in, and Shaw came in. We did a round table. The pros had never did a round table. I had them all up on the stage at one time. They'd never done that before. And I said, all right, we're going to do the round table. Because the first day I was like, man, this is boring. Ain't nothing happening on a Friday. Yeah. And I said, I got to spruce this up. So I thought about my military days. You got to the round table with the commander or first sergeant or somebody in charge. Somebody's in trouble. You know what I'm talking about, Ben. Yeah. Someone's in trouble, So if you're, so when you come into the round table and there's something going on, or you're having a big meeting. So I called it that, and I had them all up on the stage, and I asked them all the same questions, and I had them bickering back and forth, laughing and joking, and that was just a unique deal. So they want to do it again. So they had never done it before. So now I got another new group coming up on this one. So I got Matt Robertson coming in. I got Corey Johnston from Canada coming in. Matt Aries coming back. And John Cruz is coming back.
Yeah.
So those two I know about. The other two won't. So I'm going to throw them all into the devil there. So, yeah. So, and Hank Parker will probably be in the crowd pushing some questions on them as well. Yeah. So, and what I do is lead them with a bunch of questions like y'all do here.
Yeah.
And so I really laid it on them, and I had them going, So
That's awesome.
So that's pretty deep, I've got like 13 sponsors now.
Yep.
And I used to have like 20, 22, 20. I've had as much as 25 sponsors, I think, helping me. And as we say, things happen since certain years.
Sure.
Yep.
So you kind of, different people take over, and then they swipe the slate clean and go on to another one, type deal. So, but yeah, those are my main ones, and everything just really been good to me and everything. I know I'm going to leave somebody. Who am I leaving out, Jeff?
We talked about Onyx already.
Yeah.
Onyx, yep.
We got Onyx, Anglers.
Onyx. Oh, yeah, Onyx. I'm sorry.
Yeah,
Yeah.
make sure you get us a list, and we'll put them all down below in the description.
I got the list right
Oh,
here.
yeah, you get the resume.
I can hand you that.
Help me out.
Yeah, we get through that in the description.
But and the biggest thing is, if I could tell anybody about having sponsors, is don't just see them in January. And that's the biggest thing I talk with my sponsors about, is that so many guys only come out when it's time for more money or time for more product.
Yeah.
If you don't talk to them throughout the year, that's the bad part.
Yeah.
And I've tried to help them when they've had a big group of people. I said, get rid of them. Just get rid of them. If they are just there for the product, they're just there for the money. If they're not there to help you, you don't need them.
Yeah.
So I make you work for it.
Absolutely.
So I think that's the biggest thing. If I could tell somebody is, not only say thank you, but do your homework.
Yeah.
Send a report in. And just don't write, yes, I fished at a lake, I wore your shirt. Just tell them a little bit about it,
Yeah.
So that's been a big thing. So, with I won championship with Deep Creek this year, the first one they had on Jordan, and it rained cats and dogs. I mean, it was bad, so bad they had to put us in a trailer just to give us our money and trophies. I mean, it was raining that bad. And but that was a big thing because it was Deep Creek's first one. So with Deep Creek, I can always say I won the first one that they had.
The inaugural.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So things like that builds up and everything. So, but people like Onyx, someone like, they still haven't even met me, but yet they're working with me the whole time.
Yeah.
So, but because we keep a connection going the whole time,
Absolutely. And you provided a lot of words of wisdom, and I want to turn it over to these guys before we close out, and then give you one opportunity for final thoughts. Guys, you got anything?
Yeah, so last thing for me here. So I guess there's two questions. So first is, what's your PB? Largemouth.
That 9.3.
9.3. Okay. It is 10 o'clock on a Friday morning.
No, here we go.
You see a 10-pounder on a bed. You get a term at the next morning. Are you sticking her or not?
Not.
All right. That's what I'm talking about.
Because I'll miss her the next day too.
That's right.
Which I did on Warriors on the Water. When I finally stepped down, the fish hit my boat, and the guy did not have the net down, and we could have had it. And that's when Shaw was emceeing it. And
well, I thought you were going to say Shaw was in the boat.
that would be good.
Yeah.
No, but yeah, that was 9.3, and that was my, and everybody asked me that, man, I figured you would catch, but 10 pounders.
That's a hard fish to come by.
Yeah. And somebody in this room said they made a pact with the good Lord that if they caught a 10 pounder, they could just die. And I told him he's not going to Florida and die on me.
That's right.
Well, after we get done with this episode, I'll show you where I may have caught my PB on this fine lake right here. So
mine was right there.
Yeah,
that was when it had grass though. So
mine was right there. I caught 2 9.6s that year. It was 2016. So, oh, you're getting slid something. Pete, what you got?
We're getting a note slid. I don't have anything.
Oh, yeah.
I'll give you a chance to whatever you got last, but I just want to say, like, the big takeaway here is partnerships and not being a transactional relationship. And you see what it's gotten, how you've heard the stories, and that's huge. So Hal,
sorry.
we want to make sure that everybody gets shouted out. So go for it.
Oh, I forgot to say one thing.
You're good.
Oh yeah, God. Here's one thing we wanted to hit on is that everybody goes, say like to Ben for his sponsorship. You know, Ben's in the fishing business. Okay, so people come to him at all the shows. Hey man, I want to be on your team. I want to be on your pro staff. What I have done, and it's helped me out tremendously, is gone to non-endemic sponsors.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yes.
My biggest title sponsor is a non-endemic sponsor.
Yep.
I have two non-endemic sponsors. And because everybody's going to Ben, but nobody's going to, say, the local Joe's Garage down the road.
That's right.
Well, people want to know how to approach them. Well, they already know that I'm fishing and what I'm doing. Mm-hmm. So if they can't pay me, let's say if they can't pay me $5,000 up front, well, maybe they could pay me $1,000 a quarter, $500 a quarter, whatever it takes to help, you know.
Yep.
Or, hey, will you pay my entry fees for this year? So my non-endemic sponsor is my title sponsor.
Yeah.
Super. Just, I mean, it's, you know, he's just been fantastic. And it's just what he has done for me has kept me in the fishing business a lot. And I have two of them. I have one with Pro Outdoors, and then I have the biggest one is, let me go down through all my stuff to make sure I get all of them, but is Overhill's Heating and Air Conditioning Company. And people look at me when I say that, but he has made sure that I'm still in the business as far as helping me tremendously.
Right. Yeah.
And why? Because people are not banging on his doors for everything, you know. So he's a mom and pops, but he has been true to his word about helping me, and so that's been a big deal for me. I got Pro Outdoors, and it's a lawnmower shop and generator shop and everything. We've made deals with them this past year, and he's come on board with me. So that's more what I'm looking for now, is to go to the non-endemic. So this is where Jeff is coming in now. We're going to go knock on doors. We've already set up people who we're going to talk to, and people have already talked to me, and we're going to finalize some stuff in there. And that's what I want to do instead of hitting the fishing industry.
I think it's a smart way to do it. You know, the fishing industry is saturated, and it's good that it's saturated, but if you don't look at the local businesses in your area, especially startups or companies that have been around for a long time, the relationships you develop, especially being from an area, right? A little bit harder for somebody like me, but at the end of the day, you can help move the needle for a small non-endemic company. A big non-endemic company you might be able to move, but like when you start looking at these places, automobile shops, painting companies, plumbing companies, things like that, you know, every person hopefully every person that's fishing with you has a place to live. Everybody watching you has a place to live. They probably have plumbing issues, HVAC issues, things like that. These are opportunities to use these local tournaments, regional tournaments as a platform to give somebody a connection. I can't tell you how many times people reach out to me from the buddy I know that I fished in my previous club. He's an HVAC technician, right? And so that network continues to develop as you fish these tournaments. These tournaments are fun, but just like any tournament, it's a platform. Just like social media is a platform. Just like this show is a platform. And in fact, we wouldn't even have met each other if it wouldn't have been through mutual friend connections, local tournaments that I fished against you, and you whooped my butt this year. You know what I'm saying? Or last year, I guess. Right? I did cut the very last check, and that was really cool for you to stand there with me, so I received it. So I really appreciate that. But that's what it's all about. And so the small guys can take care of each other. And that's how you make it as a local, regional, professional angler, too, is by doing things like that, knocking on those doors and saying, here's the value I bring to you because I'm from here. You know what I mean? So those words of wisdom are, if you're watching this or listening to this, like, you know, take those into consideration, because it's much more than just winning a first place in a tournament. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Non-endemic has really worked for me big time. A lot because I'm from here, but a lot because they knew what I did before I even come up to them.
Right.
Did a Chevrolet dealership. I used to work for them. I would give somebody a shirt. They bought a truck and a hat. Had one guy come up to me and said, I'm tired of everybody in our club wearing these shirts, and I want one just like it. And I said, okay. He says, I'm going to buy a truck. Okay, only in America can you give somebody a shirt and a hat because they come and bought a truck.
Yeah.
We were sponsored Joe Nemechek in NASCAR. We started up the NASCAR deal and my fishing deal. The owner came into my office. He says, by the end of the year, I will see either I take fishing or NASCAR. 6 months down the road, he come back in my office. He said, I never thought I'd be in here. He says, I'm dropping NASCAR. I'm going with the fishing. I brought him like 70 some sales from there, and they were all listed for fishing. And we come up with a big fishing deal. I got write-ups on me from all over the United States about my fishing deal that I had with the Chevy fishing team. And what I did, I put on tournaments for the people who bought the cars and trucks from us.
That's amazing.
Look, I mean,
it doesn't hurt that you look like Dale Earnhardt either. I'm just saying.
Back then it did. But now you know what Dale Earnhardt would look like with gray hair.
Yeah. The Intimidator 2.0. You know what I'm saying?
I also know that you fished the Warriors on the Water.
I did. In fact, it got me into tournament bass fishing today. It's really a shame. And we talked about it during the last episode with Shaw. And I fished with a local here. And it just so I had no idea what I was doing with 2 spinning rods in a Plano tackle box that I still have out there going 80 miles an hour down Jordan Lake in a Blazer.
When I started that with 2 other guys, it took us, we went to a restaurant and we said, all right, in 6 weeks, we put Warriors on the Water on. The next year, it took us 6 months to start.
Yeah.
So on behalf of that, give me a hand.
Oh, he coined me.
Pete.
Thank you, sir.
Ben.
Awesome. I appreciate it.
This
awesome.
This is awesome.
I truly and genuinely appreciate this. This is the reason why I'm in this room talking about bass fishing right now.
I designed that coin.
Did you really?
And if you'll see on there, you see the men, the 2 guys fishing. That's your co-angler and angler, and you see the fighter coming over top of it.
The F-18.
And if you look at the stars and go to the right of it, you see the star in
one red.
Mm-hmm.
That's for the bloodshed for all the wars.
That's right.
And then you see the blue, that's the water down there. So if you turn it around, and then you'll see the state of North Carolina in red, white, and blue with the fighters coming over to protect North Carolina. And it tells you when it was established.
That's amazing. 2005.
Yeah.
That's the year I joined the Army.
And put this up on socials for anybody listening.
Absolutely.
So that's
So you can check it out.
I was telling Jeff, as y'all know, that's the highest respect you get when you get coined. And,
Yes,
it is.
So I appreciate y'all, and happy anniversary. I'm glad I could be your first one on it. So I
Yes.
just want to give you a gift for your anniversary, and
Appreciate that.
I appreciate y'all letting me come on board, and appreciate you, just what y'all do. And I like it even more that here's all my North Carolina boys, whether
That's
you're
right.
from here or not, you're local now, and I think it's neat, and I'm proud of y'all what you've done too. You've accomplished a lot, so I think it's great what y'all are doing.
I had to move out of Kalamazoo, Michigan because I would never been nobody with KVD right now.
That's right. Exactly. And I just want to say, how this means a lot, because Trey and I have, we formed a really strong friendship, and I can't tell you how many times he's talked about how important Warriors on the Water was. I hate that I never got to see it and participate, but I appreciate that, and that's going to go with the few other coins that I've been fortunate enough to get, because it does mean a lot. So
I don't have many of those left, so that was from the era there like that. But
That's awesome.
I wanted to design something that would come out and people could have and everything. So it's just been it was a great memory for me. People always come up to me. In fact, I told my wife one time, I said, no one knows me as Hal Abshire, a tournament angler anymore. It's just the Warriors on the Water guy.
He's the one. Wow.
But I was president for 10 years of Warriors on the Water.
Yes, sir.
And I finally stepped down after 10 years. And, of course, COVID hit and everything kind of pushed it aside. But you're not the only guy who have fished Warriors on the Water that turned around and said, I want to go into tournament fishing. Yeah. Another boy He was over in Desert Storm. His wife went and bought him a boat,
Yep.
a used boat, and
That's awesome.
for a gift, because he fished with a guy who fished the opens, and he talked to him from wherever he was in Afghanistan, kept asking him about things about fishing, and he become a tournament fisherman because of where he's on the water.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Changing lives.
It's more therapy than it is. Obviously, it gives you that adrenaline rush. It gives you that healthy competition. But for everybody, you don't have to be a veteran. It's just anybody that is trying to find a sense of fulfillment.
Yeah.
Right. Maybe not a sense of purpose, but a sense of fulfillment. To me, it is one of the most gratifying things in the world. I mean, Shaw even talked about being able to do both, race boats and catch fish. And it was a sense of fulfillment for him. And I know
I got him to jump out of the airplane.
Yeah,
we heard.
Yeah,
with
we
the Golden Reds.
Yeah.
So even though they had perfectly good wheels to land on, I don't know why we do it, but
they got me the year before, and I told them, I said, I don't want to do it.
Yeah.
I was in the Air Force. We stayed in airplanes. And
We landed them.
and I went back to my wife, and she says, "Are you crazy?" I said, "Man, these guys are the knights." And finally, they put me up with a guy who had like 5,000 or some jumps, and I said, "Are you sure you're okay with this?" He said, "Oh yeah." I said, he was a young guy. I said, "How many jumps you got?" He said, 5,000. I said, "Okay, all right, you'll do."
You'll do.
But I kissed the ground when I finally landed.
Yes, you did.
And but he did one thing for me that I would never forget. He started twirling around and said, "Look, dude, I don't need none of that. Let's just enjoy the scenery." He said, "Well, since it's you, I'm going to do something we're not supposed to." He took me up through the clouds, and I took my hands like this. I never forget it. It's probably one of the best moments I ever had. And the clouds rolled in between my fingers, kept rolling back and forth in my fingers. And that was just something little to me,
That's
but
right.
it was huge. But I just kept watching the clouds go through there like that. And we landed. We landed, slid good and everything. He unbuckled me. I went right to my ground. I kissed the ground. And I'm going, "Oh, my God, he's kissed the ground." I said, "Because I ain't never doing this again."
That's right. One and done. Well, Hal, we really appreciate you. We appreciate you too, Jeff. And I know everybody can't see Jeff, but Jeff's here. And he is making sure that Hal stays on track with his sponsors.
That's right.
Before I close it out, Ben, Pete, you got anything else you want to say?
No, I'm good. I appreciate you coming on.
Oh no.
No. I think it was awesome that we covered all the sponsors and sponsorship and being a pro and how that goes. And next time we're gonna have you on and we're just gonna talk fishing.
That's it.
We're just gonna talk about fishing. We're not gonna ask much questions. We're just gonna talk fishing. And you've experienced a lot. You got to fish Sharon Harris and Jordan when they were first made, and you've got to fish all over the country. So we'll have you back and tell some stories.
Hal, you absolutely are the epitome of what we talk about. We appreciate you taking the time to come to the studio. We appreciate your friendship, your mentorship, your guidance, and you are absolutely somebody that is going to help us continue to grow a culture of anglers, helping anglers one cast at a time.
That's a good one. That's a good one. Oh, God, it's a toad, son. It's a toad, dude.
Let's go. I wake up to a little bit of drool on my pillow, feel like it's gonna be a bad day.